Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a special guest today on the Realist News Show. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. He is partners with Mr. Gold himself, as he likes to be called, and I think rightfully so, Jim Sinclair, and that would be Mr. Bill Holter. He has been gracious enough to give me a few of his precious minutes today to talk about a few things, and he actually has something interesting that I didn't know we were going to get into, but we were kind of chatting before this. And maybe some breaking information on some interesting side deal we're going to get into between a country and a religion a little bit later. But I wanted to start off by asking him about the housing market because, as you know, the last several, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks, I've been heavily hitting the housing market. And Bill, I recently did a couple of videos, and I was looking at Zillow, which is a #1 place to go find real estate. It's kind of like a search engine for real estate, and it's all map based. And I was just looking in my area, Tampa, and maybe a 200-mile radius. I even went down to Miami recently, and I'm noticing with even though we have these all-time highs again for housing, like we saw in 2006, and I'll say again, probably once again for all the wrong reasons, but I'm noticing there's these red dots on the map, which signify someone selling their house, and then there's blue dots. And the blue dots signify someone selling also, but that someone is pretty much a bank because the blue signifies that it is either foreclosing, has been foreclosed, or was a foreclosure, or is becoming a foreclosure auction. And I'm noticing an absolutely incredible amount of blue dots everywhere I look, along with a lot of red dots. So the thing is, with these red dots, it could be a private person, you or me selling our house, but it could also be an institutional investor or company, commercial, real estate type of thing, or not real estate, but investment firm, and they're selling. They would still show up as a red dot because they're not foreclosed on. And I'm looking at how many are for sale right now, and it is mind-boggling. I'll go into like a square area on the map that's like a block or two wide, and by tall, so like a square. Call it 2 blocks, and there's just massive amounts of real estate for sale, and even more shocking is the foreclosure side. So are you, in the things maybe you're studying, seeing anything that's showing what I feel, and maybe I could be wrong, but I'm feeling real estate crash 2.0 has already started, it's coming, and it's going to be worse probably than the last one?
Yeah, I think for sure you're looking at real estate crash 2.0. First, if you look at the absolute high end, you're seeing the volume has dried up.
Yeah.
There was a story this past week that the high end condo market in Manhattan has just frozen.
I just saw that.
That's a bad sign because price always follows volume in whatever market. As far as your blue dots are concerned, my thought process is there was an awful lot of real estate that was taken out to banks' books back in 2008, 2007, 8, 9. They took them on into their, they foreclosed, so they were no longer non-performing loans. They were foreclosed. But much of that has never been sold.
Okay.
There's still a lot of real estate that is held and owned, that is bank owned, and they may be looking at this point saying, "Hey, we've had a reflation, a massive reflation again in real estate, and this is a way we can try to fix our balance sheet, fix our books by offloading real estate that they've had on the books."
And they're doing so.
I don't know that to be fact. It's just my guess.
And it seems like it's like everybody is doing it now, because just based off of the numbers I'm seeing of stuff for sale, and the ones that are coming up as foreclosed, and again, like you said, it could be that they foreclosed 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they're just coming on, but they're still being listed as foreclosed because they were, in fact, and the bank's unloading them.
But they're a function of price.
Yeah. Okay.
In other words, the price has gotten to a level that's enticing sellers, and whether they be individuals or banks or what have you, the higher price is enticing more sellers.
So if you were a person who was thinking about buying a house or getting a mortgage, I should say.
Hold off.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to ask.
Or
that's
try
what I've
to
been
buy a
telling.
foreclosure.
At a good deal, yeah. And that's the other thing. I've seen some of these out there starting off at prices that I consider, living in Florida all my life. That's a little high for what I'm looking at, that kind of thing. But I think again, if you're trying to go with the crowd, against, or the market, let's say, and the market's saying this is even though in my opinion might be a $250,000 house, they're trying to sell it for $375. Well, everyone else is too. But another thing I'm seeing on these is that when you see them on Zillow, it'll actually tell you how many days this thing's been listed for,
and whether it's been dropped in price or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a trend of absolutely they're knocking price down almost month after month, and a lot of these, especially like you said, when it comes to even higher priced real estate, it's even worse. I mean, they're on there for 400, 500, 600 days, and then you just look at the trail of dropped it 10%, dropped it 5%, dropped it, and it's still just sitting there. So I think there's this massive glut. The banks, whoever's trying to unload these, you all did it at the same time, and it's too late now. Now the market's going to have to price all these extra homes in, and then that with the possibility of even higher interest rates coming.
I was going to mention that. That's your big question is what's going to happen, not only to price, but what's going to happen to volume or liquidity in the real estate market once interest rates do rise.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be good news for anybody. Yeah, it's just I think we're going to see another crash 2.0. But I personally think this time could be worse. Not even could be, more than likely will be worse than the last time because of how we just essentially kicked that can down the road all these years, and we've gone to, I think, triple debt to GDP is now triple, three times debt to GDP. So, and that's worldwide. And you got people absolutely tapped out. I was just looking at some numbers the other day about.
Hey, Joe, it will definitely be worse because of what you're talking about, the debt ratios, but also it'll be worse because the world runs on credit. Everything runs on credit, and credit is going to dry up. And when credit dries up, what availability is there for people to buy houses? The entire the bid is gone. So,
yeah, they'll have to come down.
Right.
Yeah, and what do you are you seeing? I mean, because I looked at we had 3% interest rate as far as 3, 4, 3.5, whatever for housing over the last 2 or 3 years. But prior to that, when we had the Fed come out, we're dropping interest rates to near zero, and they just held it there forever. And we saw all these big companies go out and essentially just get loans, and it's almost free money, so why not? And now it appears that they've been and currently are using that money, that loan money, to buy back shares and things like that, which push up prices, so their shares don't fall. They're paying out at the top, but it's really using borrowed money to do that. So the condition.
It's a double-edged sword. It's great on the upside, and it's death on the downside. And that's what we're going to see, is that you're going to see interest rates start to move higher at some point. And when that happens, you'll see things pop, and as things begin to break, credit will dry up literally overnight.
So if you're
availability of credit, so you're looking at you've heard the term crack up boom.
Yeah.
That's what we've lived through. And after the crack up boom is a complete bust. And that's what we're headed toward.
So if you're a person sitting on the sidelines and you happen to been smart all these years, saved some money, got some precious metals, what have you, but you've got some cash on the side, is it safe to assume you are going to have some fire sale deals of your lifetime in anything?
That's assuming that your bank is still open.
Yeah, that's a good point.
On the side, you don't want the cash in the bank. I mean, I personally use vaulted silver as a bank account.
Okay.
So that way, when the banking system, the financial system does come down, that capital is out of the system, and it's still capital.
Yeah, anywhere.
So, yeah, you will see some incredible deals in dollar terms. You'll see multiples of that if you're looking in gold or silver terms.
Mm.
In other words, and I forget about the numbers, but just say that a house costs 100 or 200 ounces of gold, and it costs 700 or 1,400 or whatever the number is ounces of silver. The story of the German bellboy who got a 1 ounce gold tip in 1918 or 1919 or something like that, ended up buying the hotel he worked at for that 1 ounce of gold in, I don't know, 1923, 4, 5, something like that.
Wow.
That's the type of thing I think you're going to see.
And you said you mentioned it's vaulted. Is it vaulted in the U.S.? Is that a service you and Jim put together, or is that something else?
Yeah, Jim and I, we don't have a vaulting service.
Okay.
I vault in several different countries.
Okay.
And they're non-bank private vaults.
Okay, so if you're going to do that, that's the way to go, for sure.
Yeah, I broker precious metals, and I clear through Miles Franklin. Then they have a vault they can offer services to here in the U.S. They also vault via Brinks in Montreal and Vancouver.
Okay.
So if people are interested, you can contact me. I can help you with vaulting services, or I can help you with precious metals purchases, sales, whatever.
Okay, yeah, and you usually put your email address out in every article I've ever read for the most part. That's how I reached out to you, too. I don't know if you want to give it out over this video, but if anyone wants it.
No, you can post it at the end if you want. I mean, if people want to contact me, that's fine. I get like 500 or more emails every day. I'm bombarded with emails.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll put it in the description box.
I try to answer all of them.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm not at that level, and I get quite a number myself from just the videos I do with people asking questions, and that's sometimes a question I actually get. So I'll just maybe refer them your way. So is it safe to say that you too know that this crash is going to be coming? Now, if you were a betting, I mean, I know the answer is yes on that, but if you were...
No, it's math. It's no longer Bill Holter's opinion or Jim Sinclair's opinion. This is math. It's over.
That's exactly right. That's what I keep saying. This is a mathematical certainty. It's as simple as that. You can't force math to change because you feel good or you want to win another campaign and become president for a second term. None of this matters. And I'm trying to tell people, like, look, I was happy, honestly, that Trump won instead of Hillary, and he's got these great plans, and he wants to change the tax code and all that. Hey, great, I'm for this. I said, but there's things that are so big here that I think he's now finding out that he's saying, oh my God, beyond a gigantic, enormous reset, I can't do anything about this. You know,
the bottom line to a Trump presidency is he's going to preside over a bankruptcy, and at least it will be presided over under the rule of law, as opposed to the last administration or a potential Hillary administration that had the Justice Department in their pockets.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, that's if nothing else, the rule of law, I believe, until I see otherwise, I believe the rule of law is making a comeback.
I agree. You know, I just did a video a few days ago. I don't know if you remember this, from October, right before the election, and they were doing the Hillary investigation and all that. And there was an FBI memo that came out in which they referred to any congressional inquiry or Freedom of Information Act request that goes to the State Department. It has to go through this thing called the Seventh Floor Group, also known as the shadow government. That was in the FBI memo. It's gone. So when I saw that the other day, I said, guys, subscribers, listen here. This might be the good news we've been waiting for. You know, we see him hiring all these people we don't really know. He's a Goldman guy. He's an oil guy. What's he going to do? But it looks like he's doing the right thing. So, you know, I got to sit back and say, you know what? I was a little worried at first, but I don't think I am now. But, of course, they're going to fight tooth and nail. And I've always felt like if he were to make it as the president, I was thinking this from like 2015, 2016, that he would go be president when the bankruptcy happened, and that they would want it to be under him anyway, so he would get the full blame, you know, of it. So he'd be, you know, whatever president's there, they're going to get the spotlight put on. Hey, this has happened under you. You know, didn't happen under Barack. It didn't happen under Bush.
As far as blame is concerned, and I've written so much this year on it, and I wrote sporadically over the last year and a half regarding truth bombs. It's my belief, and especially now that Trump is in office, you have Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, I believe you're going to see some very, very big truth bombs that will be so bad that even the left is going to blush.
I would not bet against you, no matter what the odds were, on that statement.
One other thing I want to talk about, and this just came out yesterday. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. There was news yesterday, and the way it was portrayed was that the Vatican and China are working on a deal so that China opens up and allows Catholicism throughout China. The way it is right now is there's an official Catholic Church, which is, if you want to call it, it has government oversight as to what can and can't be said and done, etc. And then there's an underground Catholicism. And there's talk back and forth, there's fear saying, well, it's going to out these people, and it's a way for the Chinese government to put their thumb on that group. I have a different view. I don't think so much this is about religion. It's my opinion this is about power. If you look at China, it's a country of, over 1 billion people. If you look at Catholicism worldwide, and by the way, I'm not trying to piss Catholics off here. When you mix politics and religion, that's like the most incendiary combination. But anyway, there's 1.2 or 1.3 billion Catholics in the world. So if you put those two groups together, you have over 2 billion. You have roughly 30% of the global population. And you may argue this with me, and I will tell you that you're wrong. The two biggest gold holders in the world are not the U.S. and Germany. The two biggest gold holders in the world are China and the Vatican. I could show you on the back of a napkin that China's got 20,000 tons, and the official number for the U.S. is 8,100 tons. That's a completely bogus number. There's not been an audit since 1956. I'd be shocked if there was more than 500 tons left.
Oh.
And if you look at the Vatican, the amount of gold that they accumulated during World War II, my guess is, and I mean, I don't have, I can't, on the back of a napkin, show you like I could with China, but my belief is that the Vatican has between 5 and 10, maybe possibly more, 1,000 tons of gold. Now, if this is, first off, the news, the Guardian, I think it was, that came out with this, is saying that they're in talks. I would pretty much say that if the news is reporting that they're in talks, the talks have already taken place.
Sure. There's
probably a deal already cut or very close to being cut, and this is a way to warm up the public and float a trial balloon. But if you put those two dots together, 30% of the world's population and the two biggest gold holders in the world, it's my opinion that you're going to see China / the Vatican revalue gold to a stupidly high number. And what does that do? It creates instant wealth, and it locks those that don't have gold out. If you remember last year, President Xi made comments, the Pope made comments that they wanted a more fair and equal world. And what does that mean? It means taking the standard of living away from those who are wealthy and giving a better standard of living to those who are poor.
Yeah, spread the wealth.
I view it, I think this is, it's a power play, it's a wealth play, and it definitely bears watching because, the term reset has been bandied about for 2, 3, 4 years now, and this would certainly be a reset.
And I'm hearing more and more too lately about this like global, what do they call it? Like an income, like a global basic income, I think they're calling it. And they just had this meeting at the World Government Summit thing in Dubai, and they were talking more about it again.
Yeah, but if we were to go to that, you'd have to have one world currency. And are we going to have one world currency? I don't know. It could happen. I guess if you read in the Bible, it's called the mark of the beast. You can't transact without that mark. Now, is that a chip in your forehead or your forearm or whatever? I don't know. But I imagine that's where the New World Order would like it to go.
And are you familiar with the whole thing around the 1988 cover of the Economist magazine?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 1988. I thought it was a little earlier than that. But yeah, with the eagle on the front of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
I look at everything happening right now, and I say, man, what are the chances that, like what you just talked about, with the Chinese and the gold and the Vatican, the fact that we're 3 times GDP, our debt to GDP, all this is happening. Trump, not that long ago, as in like a week ago or so, came out and said, I just spoke with the president of China and Japan. We understand that we want to level the playing field together, and that we understand the problems with manipulating currency and how it affects other trade partners, and we've got a plan, and it's going to be implemented, I think, sooner than anybody thinks it will be. But he didn't say what it was. And I thought, that's odd. That's really weird. And again, I'm saying, okay, well, this is 2017. If that stupid magazine's right, it's a year off. And it almost seems like we're gearing up to go towards that. But I did recall seeing a gigantic gold coin around that eagle or the phoenix or whatever it was. Actually, it was the phoenix around its neck. Right. So whatever's coming, I think, whether it's, if it's China and the Vatican working some kind of deal like you're talking about, and they revalue it to insane numbers, all of a sudden China and the Vatican have the biggest assets in the world now. All of a sudden, and the power. If it's not that, and it's just a new world currency system that has to be backed by gold, apparently from this magazine cover, that's what the plan is.
Well, that's my theory, is that nations' currencies are going to be valued based upon how much gold they have.
And I've heard that one time before.
Not a direct backing, but it will be
like a basket of assets, and if you have gold, you have a huge number of assets, so that'll...
Right.
I guess...
Yeah, one other thing, keep in mind that China, for hundreds of years, has been beaten up by the West.
Oh, yeah.
Silver was devalued around the turn of the 20th century, around 1900. Silver was devalued versus gold. And the reason they did that was because the West had gold and the East had silver. Mm. So what they did basically was they busted China. And for the Chinese, that's like yesterday. They have long memories.
Oh, sure.
And one of my questions is, the man-made ratio is 70-1, and God's ratio, silver comes out of the ground at 10-1. So if we have a revaluation in gold, it's my guess that you're going to have a bigger revaluation in silver.
Yeah, I would strongly agree with that, because I've said it myself. It belongs nowhere even close to 60, 70, 80-1 at times with gold. I mean, even historically, even though it comes out of around 8 or 10-1 out of the ground versus gold, it still, for whatever reason, was 16-1 and 20-1 as far as financial reasons are concerned over the last few thousand years, it seems. Only until I want to say, wasn't the 60s, I think, when that ratio really started to walk away?
Yes.
So I agree. I think we're going to see precious metals playing a huge role in whatever currency system or economic system.
Well, it was really 1971 is when we went off the gold standard, and then it began to freely trade away from the $35 peg in the 1973, 4, 5, and started moving higher, and silver didn't keep pace.
Yeah, and I was, I think it was, I'm trying to think it was yesterday or the day before I was doing a video, I saw this interesting article, and it talked about how in like 1979, 80, when gold was really moving up like that, it had an investment demand from the world investment was about 5% at the peak. And they said even in 2008 and 9, when we had our, or excuse me, 2011, when we had our peak with, you know, precious metals, silver 50, again, gold was like 1900 or so. It wasn't even a fraction of anywhere near that. It was still like under 1%. Yeah, it was like 0.89 or something. It was like really low. So I'm thinking in this next time, this next go around, people are going to look for somewhere to put their money. And I know right now the digital thing to do, people are doing it in China especially, is Bitcoin. But again, that's, I am nervous by it. I can't argue with how it performs, but it's still an online thing. You know, you can't hold it in your hand. But I still think people are going to go back to the age-old historical value.
I would ask, as an American, and this has been a question. It's been a fear. What if there's an EMP?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Your Bitcoins are done.
Where are your Bitcoins? Are they still held in your your exchange or in your purse or whatever? But if we have an EMP, how can you get to them if they still exist?
Right, you're done at that point. But you could certainly have gold and silver in your pocket or in your safe, whatever. Take an ounce out, a quarter ounce, whatever you happen to have, and you know, trade with it.
Gold is for your wealth, and silver, in my opinion, will be to spend.
Yeah. It seems like there's almost weekly, someone sending me something. Hey, look, a new use for silver. There's a new thing coming out. They're trying to make windshields in the German cars, and or I think it was VWs in the near future. So now it's an add-on item where you can have silver, this thin layer of silver put on the windshield. And there's this company out of New Jersey, I think, that is called SunCell, and this thing is like a mini reactor of some type, and it uses, as part of its process, to create an enormous amount of energy, these highly advanced solar panels. But they take silver, they said, and it becomes molten silver as part of this process. And I've never been able to find out how much silver does one of these things use. And someone just sent me one the other day, an article on it. It said I've been able to determine, I think he said it was 25 ounces of silver. And while it doesn't have to really be replenished per se, because it just stays in the molten state when it's being used, it's still 25 ounces. And I thought, man, if this thing is like a revolutionary, change the world kind of energy solution, it goes into it'll ultimately power your car or vehicle. And this is not just some little group. I mean, this thing was like done out of like an MIT or like a group like that. And there's a company now formed in New Jersey, and they've got videos on YouTube. They were on CNN at one point showing how it works, and they're trying to get at least a commercial version done and out for market this year.
Joe, let me say this to finish. Supply and demand has not worked for years and years, and it's not worked because of derivatives, because of paper trading. But when all is said and done, supply and demand is going to come back in with a vengeance.
And you better be on the right side of that when it happens.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, it was a great chat with you. I'm glad you could give me some time here on this wonderful Saturday morning. Not sure where you are, but where we are, the weather's beautiful. My kids have been hounding me all morning. Daddy, let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. I said, all right, I got to talk to a real nice guy in a little while, okay? Just give me like a half an hour or so, and we'll go. So, yeah, great chatting with you. Glad you could come on sometime in the future. We'll have to do this again. And, again, just thanks. If anyone wants any information from Mr. Bill Holter, I will put his email address down in the description box of this video for you to reach out to him. And so that's it. Bill, thanks again.
My pleasure, Joe.
All right, take care.